Buddhism is one of the major world religions. Its origins can be found in India in the 6th century BCE teachings of Siddhartha Gautama. It later spread to most parts of Asia through China, Korea, and Japan, and on to the West. Today there are over 300 million followers worldwide. Buddhism teaches individuals to reach the state of nirvana by adhering to the path of Buddha. There is no personal God in Buddhism, but rather a belief in impermanence. Anyone can reach enlightenment through practice, wisdom and mediation. History of Buddhism. The word Buddhism implies a devotion to the Buddha, which means the awakened one, or the enlightened one. From the earliest times, Buddhist tradition has suggested several former Buddhas who have lived on earth in the past or will in the future. However, in many contexts, the Buddha more commonly refers to the one known in history as Gautama to the Theravada Buddhists and Sakyamuni to the Mahayana Buddhists. Born to a royal family that ruled over the land of the Sakyans at Kapilvastu in present-day Nepal around 490 BCE, Siddhartha did not lead a typical life. Legends say that in 623 BC, on a full moon day, Queen Mahamaya was traveling from Kapilvastu to Devadaha to give birth to her child at her parental home. Halfway between the two cities, she gave birth to a son while standing in a grove of trees now known as Lumbini. King Ashoka erected a stone pillar over 300 years after the event to mark this sacred place, which is now a famous Buddhist pilgrimage site. On the 5th day after the birth, his father, King Suchodana, invited 8 wise men for the naming ceremony that were also asked to predict the baby's future. The prince was named Siddhartha. The invited Brahmins predicted that he would either become a great king or a great teacher when exposed to any sufferings. Queen Mahamaya passed away on the 7th day after the childbirth, and Siddhartha was raised by his aunt. He grew up in all the luxuries and was encouraged to excel in education by his father. At the age of 16, Siddhartha was married to his cousin, the beautiful Princess Yashodhara. However, he was still not happy and longed to see the world beyond his palace. At the age of 29, Siddhartha left the palace with his charioteer Channa to explore the world outside his palace. He was deeply touched by what he had never seen before: the 4 passing sights, an old man weakened with age, a sick man crying in pain, a dead man whose corpse was taken for cremation, and a wandering sannyasin. Siddhartha was saddened seeing aging, sickness, and death for the first time. He was inspired by the sannyasin and decided to leave the palace, his wife, and the newborn son to understand life, sufferings, and find solutions to sufferings in the world. His search for enlightenment began by practicing strict asceticism. With 6 years of hardship, Siddhartha realized neither luxury nor starvation can provide him a deeper understanding of life and instead followed the middle path. He gained enlightenment in a village, Bodh Gaya, under a bodhi tree as he sat down in meditation. He saw his past lives, death, and rebirths and realized that he had eliminated all desires and ignorance within himself. By now he had become the awakened one, a Buddha. With this awakening, Buddha gave his first sermon to a group of ascetics with whom he practiced earlier. These ascetics became the very first disciples of Buddha. Buddha continued to spread his teachings in India for the next 45 years, gaining several followers until his death at the age of 80 in a small town called Kusinara. He lived his life in the time when an early form of Hinduism, Brahmanism, was influential. His teaching shared some of the basic ideas of Brahmanism, such as karma and rebirth, moksha, existence of gods, yogic practices, and the value of spiritual insight. However, his ideas on these differed from Brahmanism, as he did not accept some of their key features. He rejected the authority of days, sacrifices to gods, and the social system of caste. Buddhism was open to people of all social classes. The social order of monks and nuns known as the Sangha was introduced by Buddha himself. Many followers became monks and nuns. Others remained lay people providing material support to the monks and nuns, whom in return gave lay people teachings and advice. This mutual relationship still lies at the heart of the different schools of Buddhism. The Buddha was a wandering teacher attracting followers with his charisma. As more followers joined, a monastic community with rules and regulations formed over time. However, Buddha never regarded himself as the leader of the community and thus did not appoint a successor upon his death. He instead encouraged people to follow his teachings, dharma, and the monastic order. This soon led to disagreements on the issues of monastic practice and the doctrine. With the absence of a central authority, a number of different traditions developed. The most serious disagreement occurred a century after Buddha's death between the elders, Thavaras, and the Universal Assembly, Mahasanghas. Different records provide contradictory accounts. Some see it as a doctrinal dispute on the status of Buddha as compared to an Arahant, seen inferior to Buddha. However, the more likely cause of the division seems to be an attempt the elders to amend the monastic rules by introducing additional rules of conduct. The division occurred as Buddhism began to spread to other parts of India and came across new customs and ideas. This raised questions on whether to stick to the old traditions or accommodate new beliefs and practices. Eventually the two groups separated, a great division that led to a number of further divisions and sub-schools. Most died out over time with the exception of Theravada from elder tradition. The legacy from the earlier schools led to a revolutionary new movement known as the Mahayana. Teachings of Buddhism. Since Buddha does not refer to a unique individual, Buddhism focuses less on a person as the founder, but rather on the teachings of Buddha. These teachings include ways to help individuals develop compassion and avoiding illusions that cause attachments and bring suffering to an individual and to those the individual interact with. The guide to this process is known as the Dharma or Dhamma, patterns of reality and cosmic order discovered by Buddha, Buddhist teachings, the path, and the ultimate goal of Buddhism, nirvana. Dhamma is thus the most important element of Buddhism. Buddha's teachings are recorded in different collections of scripture known as canons, deriving from the oral tradition at the time of Buddha and preserved through communal chanting. The most essential one is the Pali Canon, written in Pali in Sri Lanka around the middle of the 1st century BC. The scripture consists of 3 baskets or pitaka. Sutta, Buddha's sermons, Vinaya, monastic rules, and the Abhidhamma, scholastic works. Since Buddhism lacked a central authority, several different schools emerged. Each school compiled their own canons in different languages. However, the Pali Canon remained authoritative for the Theravada school. The spread of Buddhism. Buddhism, Christianity and Islam are the great missionary religions of the world, actively spreading their message and practice beyond their place of origin. The spread of Buddhism goes to the time when Buddha himself sent out enlightened disciples to spread teachings. This marked the beginning of the spread of Buddhism both within India and beyond, becoming the main form of Indian religion for export and spreading literate culture as well. The spread of Buddhism gained a considerable boost in the 3rd century with the great Mauryan ruler, King Ashoka, who extended his empire through conquest. During one of the battles on the east coast in Orissa, he experienced guilt and turned to Buddhism. Thereafter Ashoka ruled according to Buddhist principles, and Buddhism flourished under his reign with missionaries sent to the courts of rulers to Southeast Asia and to the West. Within India, great Buddhist universities were established like Nalanda, which flourished between the 7th and the 12th centuries. Important Buddhist centers were also set up both in the south and the northwest, which became an important gateway to Central Asia and the Far East. Buddhism, however, was under attack with the Muslim Turks' invasion in India in the 10th century. Several works of art were destroyed and libraries were burned down. Only with the Mughals in the 16th century was stability and religious tolerance restored. However, by this time Buddhism had disappeared from the land of its birth. Buddhism in Southeast Asia. Buddhism survived in the rest of Asia with Mahayana Buddhism in the north and Theravada in the south. The important Theravada countries in Southeast Asia are Burma, Myanmar, and Thailand. Theravada Buddhism might have been introduced here by one of the missionaries of Ashoka and has been present among the native Mons since the early centuries of the Christian era. Southeast Asia also received the influence of both Buddhism and Hinduism from South Asia, which was historically looked upon for cultural inspirations. Under the domination of the Khmer Empire from 5th to the 15th centuries, several forms of Hinduism and Mahayana Buddhism were popular. According to the Burmese chronicles, different schools of Buddhism flourished under King Anuwharta 1044 to 1077. However, King Anuwharta promoted Theravada Buddhism, and as a result almost 90% of the population in Burma is Theravada Buddhist. Theravada has long been established in parts of the neighboring territory of present-day Thailand, in the Mon Kingdom of Haripanjaya and the Kingdom of Dvaravati, and in the 11th century missionaries were sent to this region from Burma. The Theravada Buddhism received royal patronage, and today over 90% of the Thai population is Buddhist. Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam share a similar history. However, a much more syncretic religious system is found in these countries with a mix of Theravada, Mahayana, and local indigenous religions. One of the reasons for the successful spread of Buddhism is that it tends to incorporate existing beliefs of local gods and spirits, with its own cosmology. Thus it is common to find Buddhists in villages who look to local gods to find solutions to everyday problems, while turning to Buddhism for answers to the broader questions of human life. Ruchi Agarwal. See also, Dharma, Hinduism, Study of Religion, Thailand. Further readings. Harvey, P. ed. Buddhism. London, New York, Continuum, 2001. Harvey, P. An Introduction to Buddhism, Teachings, History, and Practices. England. Cambridge University Press, 1990. Ingram, M.D. Mastering the Core Teachings of the Buddha. The Independent Universe 3rd edition, 2007. Keown, D. Buddhism, A Very Short Introduction. Oxford, Oxford University Press, 2013. Tera, P. The Buddha, His Life and Teachings. Buddhist Publications Society, 1982.